So hello guys, welcome to our channel Global Hope Talks. As the war is still waging on, you have to understand the three demands of Israel and America on Iran. Meir Shema argues that these three demands cannot be achieved without a regime change in Iran.
Think about those three goals: abandon missiles, ballistic missiles, abandon the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas, and abandon nuclear enrichment. The Israelis want that to happen. But to achieve those three particular goals, you need regime change. And you have to believe, number one, that you can topple the existing regime. And number two, you can put in its place a regime that will be subservient to Israeli and American interests and will agree to those three particular goals.
So a journalist from Sky News asked the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He said, and I quote, "How do you see this war ending?" So the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, argues that by the end of the war, he wants a pipeline that will carry an oil from the Middle East, from the Arabian Peninsula, up to Israel, then to the Europe. He wants to change the system at all. So after all, this war was about oil. The Prime Minister said it himself that he wants to change the system. So he wants a powerful incentive in such a way that he can force the whole Middle Eastern country to do what he wants. Because the pipeline system has shown us in Russia and Ukraine system, the Ukrainians just shut the pipeline and the oil stopped flowing to the Europe. And you see, it's a leverage. And without a powerful Iran in the Middle East, let's assume they achieve their goal and a regime change happened in Iran, and he happened to, reroute the oil into a pipeline system. They shut the Strait of Hormuz and reroute it into a pipeline system that will take the oil into Europe. He can easily blackmail any country. And the Israeli regime has shown that they can do anything with impunity. They don't care, as long as the Americans are backing them.
The war is popular here in Israel. It is not popular with many Americans. So my question was, how do you see this ending? Not why, not even when. What do you imagine the day after will look like?
Well, we have achievable goals. Once we achieve our goals, then I have argued, I think, and Americans understand this very well because we're real partners. I think that what has to be done is to have alternative routes. Instead of going through the choke points of the Hormuz Straits and the Bab el-Mandeb Straits, in order to have the flow of oil, just have oil pipelines going west through the Arabian Peninsula, right up to Israel, right up to our Mediterranean ports, and you've just done away with the choke points forever. That is definitely possible.
Also, according to Professor Natasha from University of Essex, London, she argues that Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, she argues that the Crown Prince wanted a regime change in Iran. He needed a regime that is not powerful in Iran, that is, favorable to them, and a regime, that is soft. So they are willing to allow the war to continue for at least 9 weeks. It doesn't matter, the bombing can continue, even though the Iranians are targeting their territories, bombing them. It doesn't matter. They are willing to risk it for at least 9 weeks in order to get the regime change in Iran.
What's the best case scenario then, do you think, for Saudi Arabia at this moment?
So according to the New York Times, the best case scenario is that the regime is ended, or at least some sort of pliant regime is in its place that is friendly to the Gulf states in particular, and so that they no longer fear that there's going to be attacks on their key infrastructure, or particularly in the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, one of the big parts of Crown Prince bin Salman's economic plan is this Vision 2030 that requires a lot of foreign investment. They want to be an international business hub. They want to attract a lot of tourism. And all of this is really bad for business. So they think in the short run that they may be willing to suffer this conflict going on for months. I heard somewhere around 9 months mentioned that they would be willing to withstand if in the end the result is an Iranian regime that is far more friendly and where they don't feel vulnerable to attack. They want to feel like in the post-conflict situation, there's some sort of deterrence that has been established, that they're not worried that their economic interests will be vulnerable.
Also, professor and economist Professor Richard Wolff, he argues that the West, mainly the Americans, have to worry about the industrial capacity of Iran, their ability to replenish their weapons, because some analysts are arguing that if the Americans keep bombing Iran at some point, they will bomb most of their industries, so they will bomb their capacity to, replenish their weapons, to build new weapons. So he argues that that is not the case, that even if it reaches to that point, the Russians and the Chinese are not going to sit and look. They are not going to sit back. He argues that they can easily, with China as a tech industrial hub, they can easily manufacture missiles and send it to Iran via Russia. Also caught that the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov saying that we are into the beginning of a World War III, so which is a very serious statement.